I'm tapping in, I'm tapping in, I'm tapping in. PSA, man. PSA. I was sitting back, flicking through the phone, and I see what's going on over Iraq. The supreme leader had got killed today in a major attack by U.S. and Israel, man. Listen, y'all. Uncle Trump is bringing the drama to everybody, bruh. He's not playing, bruh. Protect you and your family, bruh. It's not a game, man. It's not a game. But listen, make sure y'all subscribe, like, and drop a comment out of this episode because we are definitely lit the night off the late night, man. I just had to come in and let y'all know, man, that it's definitely going down. It's definitely going down. But listen, I ain't going to hold y'all no longer. Make sure y'all subscribe, like, and drop a comment out of this episode. We lit. Let's go.
Iranian state media is now confirming Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah, is dead. This news after a duly launched and calculated attack by the Israeli and United States militaries. The U.S. and Israel launched a major military campaign against Iran this morning aimed at wiping out Iran's nuclear program. Thanks for joining us here at 11. I'm John Burkett. The Israeli military shared these images, what they say show some of the strikes. President Trump confirmed the death of Iran's supreme leader, calling him one of the most evil people in history, adding that this is not only for justice for the people of Iran, but for all great Americans. Iran was swift to retaliate, launching missiles against U.S. allies in the region, including Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. President Trump warned there could be U.S. casualties as Iran targets U.S. military forces in the region.
The Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war.
While a group of leading U.S. lawmakers known as the Gang of Eight was notified by Secretary of State Marco Rubio of the attack, many Democratic lawmakers are upset the attacks were launched without congressional approval. A knock at the door March 25, 2003. Chesterfield mom Brenda May is told her son was the first Virginian to die in Operation Iraqi Freedom. Given a folded flag that was so tight, it has literally held her world together with a promise from the military that his life meant something. Decades later, presidents changed, war names change. Until this morning, May says she has lived a quiet life wondering if her son's sacrifice was for nothing.
My thought originally was, it's about time.
Brenda May says she's watched the bombs drop on Iran on TV and felt a sense of comfort and closure.
I'm not ashamed of it. I mean, we had to do what we had to do to protect the American people. And people like my son and many others that passed in the beginning of the Iraqi conflict, war, whatever you want to call it, it makes us parents, family members feel like they did not die for nothing.
Her son, Marine Staff Sergeant Donald May Jr., was the first Virginian to die in Iraq in March of 2003 when the tank he was riding in fell into the Euphrates River.
Really tired of thinking that maybe my son died for nothing, but with President Trump, I have full confidence in him, and to me, it's not a war, it's payback.
We know that our military is second to none.
Democratic Senator Mark Warner, a member of the bipartisan Gang of Eight, was made aware of Operation Epic Fury and Escalation. He disagrees with the attacks that Israeli and American troops have unleashed on Iran.
We need to make sure there is a clear purpose. Usually, when there's a strike, it's in reaction
Thank
to
you,
something.
bro. Thank you.
In this case, having seen the intelligence, there is no imminent threat to our country.
The Trump administration's push against the Ayatollah's rule is tied to a mix of strategic and ideological factors. Trump sees Iran as a security threat because of missiles, nuclear concerns, support for proxy militias, and terrorist groups.
It's a whole lot of countries that are quietly helping the United States and Israel because Iran has been a bully in the region for so long, and they've attacked people through proxies for a long time. In fact, the Straits of Hormuz, I think 20% of the world's energy flows through there, and every time they shut it down or block it or call something, it impacts the whole world.
Ben, we're getting some live activity. As you can see, the skies lighting up there in Jerusalem. Trey. Yeah, Sandra, we are seeing what appear to be some interceptor rounds coming off from the sea, which means some.
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Ashley Strohmeyer live in New York. Crews in Israel are searching for survivors following Iran's latest barrage of missiles and drones. We're going to get right to Trey Yingst, who is live on the scene in Tel Aviv. Trey, tell us what you're seeing. From what I'm hearing from our people in the booth, it's pretty volatile where you are right now.
Yeah, Ashley, there was just a large-scale Iranian ballistic missile barrage toward Tel Aviv. One of those missiles slipped past air defense systems and slammed into the buildings behind me. This is a residential area of Tel Aviv. This is an area that people are known, and we're just going to move 1 second because they're trying to clear out this area, Ashley, as we talk, and my cameraman is going to show you the scene here as we move. But again, this is in Tel Aviv, Israel's second largest city, and you can see that these crews are trying to get a fire under control. They are looking through these buildings to make sure that no one is trapped under the rubble. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buildings directly affected by this. And again, the police are just moving people around here as they try to clear a path for the first responders and ambulances that have arrived here on the scene. Ashley, as we move forward here, we will learn more and be able to report more about the location. But broadly, I can say that we are in Tel Aviv, Israel's second largest city.
That shit crazy.
The Army and police are aware of our location. We coordinate these things to make sure that we're not giving away any details
yes. You
that
see
could
that
be
shit?
harmful to first responders of the
Crazy,
people on the
right?
scene. But just to describe what we are seeing here, when we arrived, it was still dark. There was a man who was injured. His name was Gal. He was bleeding from his legs, and I talked to him and I said, "What happened? How are you? How are you feeling?" He said, "My ears are ringing. I can barely hear you." He said he has glass injuries to his legs, and he was waiting to get medical attention. He was just one of a number of people who was injured, and you can see there's about 10 or 15 journalists at this location we're at, and we're just going to push back a little bit here, Ashley. But again, the latest information that we have, there has been a ballistic missile attack launched by Iran at central Israel. One of those missiles slipping past air defense systems and slamming into the ground below, causing damage to 4 or 5 buildings in Tel Aviv. First responders, you can see, are here on the scene. They have gloves, hard hats, and torch lamps. They are now going into the buildings to try and see if they can find any survivors or other people that were injured. I want to just show you across the street here, Ashley. There's a massive amount of damage to this very tall building, and it just shows you the blast wave and radius of such a blast.
I don't think none of that's
like
fair.
This takes place.
That's not fair.
And so we will find out more information in the minutes, hours ahead. But what we know right now, a number of people have been injured. We can confirm that because we saw it when we arrived here on the scene. When we got here, this entire parking lot was on fire. Cars were crushed and smashed. And first responders ran into the blaze, and they started to put out the fire.
That shit's sad.
As the fire died down, we could really start to see the full scope of what happened here and start to count the buildings that were affected by this blast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's shrapnel to this building, 7. This entire facade over here on this building destroyed. And it just gives you a sense of how destructive these Iranian missiles are when they land in the center part of Israel, these densely populated areas filled with Israeli civilians. Ashley?
Yes.
You know, Trey, when you were talking, I saw in the video there was a little girl with her backpack on walking with her dad, and it looked like her brother. And I just want to point out it's 5:15 a.m. in Tel Aviv. I can imagine this is when people are starting to get up and they're going to school and trying to live their normal lives. How does this attack and what you're seeing on the ground compare to what you saw when this first initially happened last week on that first attack?
Yeah, Ashley, I'm going to have my cameraman Yaniv show you the scene here in Tel Aviv. But that first attack, when we were live on Fox and you saw those ballistic missiles raining down on this city, this was the first indication that the Iranians do possess the ability to strike deep into Israel and cause significant damage. And when you see the scene here, and we are shooting from just a small distance from the impact location. Again, after checking with the police and checking with the Army to ensure that
Trump
we're not
is not
giving
the
away
best
any operational
president,
security, we arrived
see
here
what Trump got
and
going
saw
on?
this was yet another missile attack causing this much damage. They're using similar missiles, as to your question, that they used on the first day responding to the Israeli strikes targeting Iranian nuclear facilities and top IRGC officials. What has changed, though, is as the pressure continues to increase on the Israeli air defense system, it starts to create a situation where the Israelis can't reload as quickly, they can't shoot down all of this incoming fire, and then ultimately it puts Israel in a place where they have to simply tell the population to go into bomb shelters and hope. Because as you can see with this damage here, Ashley, even if you are in a shelter, something fortified with concrete that normally Israelis would go to if there's a rocket attack or something similar, it's not enough for these missiles. These missiles are so large and they have such a large warhead on top that even being in a shelter doesn't necessarily mean that you will be protected, but it is certainly better than being on the street or just being near windows or walls. Here at the scene, I'm just trying to, as daylight is starting to come together here, I'm trying to get a better picture of this area. Without giving away too much of the location, I will broadly say that this is an area.
Iran just got bombed. The leader of Iran just got
we
killed.
Are reporting from in Tel Aviv.
Hey, yo, cuz, what's up, cuz?
Before this round of conflict began. And there are coffee shops here. There are oftentimes people going for runs.
We are in trouble.
It's a residential area. And it's an area that is now under direct fire from the Iranian regime. This speaks to the targets that the Iranians are picking out. They are not simply just targeting military installations in Israel. They are going after the heart of cities. They are targeting residential areas. They are hitting apartment buildings. You saw on Fox the images that we brought you from central Israel earlier today, where they were digging through debris looking for bodies, and
looking for
there was a man there,
Mo,
and he was sitting in a wheelchair in a hospital gown. And we talked to his friend, and he said he was pulled from the rubble. His father was still stuck under the debris. They took this man to the hospital, and he insisted that the doctors and nurses take him back to the scene, and he wait as these first responders tried to dig out his father. These are humans. They're just like us. They like to go to coffee shops. They like to go to the beach. They're peaceful people, and they have been targeted following the Israeli strikes against Iran. And as you can see in the distance behind me, this is a very difficult moment for this country, because officials and sources that we talk to every day tell us the following days are going to be incredibly difficult, Ashley. They will take casualties. There will be significant destruction to residential areas of this country. But the Israelis say they knew this was the price going into an operation that they started. They started with strikes against nuclear facilities in Iran. They started with strikes against the ballistic missile program of Iran, and they took out officials from the IRGC. But the Israelis tell us this was the price that they knew they would have to pay in order to reduce those threats against the state of Israel and to try to stabilize a region that is rapidly unraveling. Ashley?
Yeah, and you make a very good point. It's a residential area, and obviously you don't want to give anything away past that. But these are people just living their lives. This is exactly the type of thing we do. We get up, we go to school, we take our kids to school, we go to work, we go sit down and have coffee with our family and our friends, but this is what they're having to deal with today, which is a Monday morning. It's supposed to be a normal Monday morning for them. So Iran has made it clear that they don't care about the loss of life that is happening in Israel when they send these rockets into these residential areas. Have you seen, is it still too early, or have you seen anybody be brought out of these buildings? Have you been able to speak to anyone other than the man you spoke to that you referenced?
We saw a couple people being brought out of this area. The concern is that many of them are trapped in these partially collapsed buildings. And that's why the first responders have
Trump don't respect nobody.
All of the crews that have arrived here.
That man don't care about nothing.
They're going into these buildings and
starting
to dig and try to get information.
Y'all know Trump don't care about nothing.
But that man that we talked to, Gal, he was still in shock. And I just asked him, I said, Achi, which is bro in Hebrew, are you okay? He said he's okay, but
sad
his
and
ears
not
were ringing
sad.
because the explosion was
Just
so loud.
giving them
He didn't have a
opportunity
bomb
for
shelter
their
in his
freedom.
building,
Thank
so he went
God
to the
for
stairwell. It's the next best thing for
President Trump.
Israelis
No
who live
one
in older
else had
buildings
the
in
balls
cities
to
like
do
Tel
this.
Aviv.
Man, that's
And
crazy,
I
man,
don't
that
even
you
know that
think
he
like
noticed,
that,
but he was
bro.
bleeding from both of his
Trump
legs.
is
He had
Trump
injuries
is an
from
ego
glass
man.
and metal. When the explosion happened, it hit him.
I can't take whatever
And
you want
you can only
to say
imagine
because I
he was
don't
in
even
a
vote
building that wasn't
Democrat, like,
directly
to
hit,
stay
from what we
mad because
understand.
Trump will
You can
always
imagine
be-
the types of
Yo,
injuries
Daddy,
that would
now
happen to
that's
someone
crazy.
who was in one of those buildings.
Trump is the
When
man.
you see someone like this,
Fuck
it really
no.
highlights what's happening here. It highlights the fact that the population is doing what they can when these alerts come in, but it does take time to get to shelters. They do have a text message alert that goes out to people.
No,
But
your side
at
don't
the end of the
care
day,
about anyone
this
but
is
yourself.
a volatile situation
Fact.
that Israeli
Trump
officials
is
say
this
is in some
fucking
ways
punk
a nightmare
ass
scenario
man.
they were trying to prepare for.
Yes.
Trey, when you talk about that text message system about those missiles incoming, do you know how long they have in advance before they know it's going to hit, or at least in their general area?
So broadly, they have about 10 minutes when they know missiles are being launched from Iran. And as they get closer, there's a 90-second warning, and you start to hear the air raid sirens sounding
I have
across Tel
respect for
Aviv.
you
And that's the moment that
for
if you're not
hating
already in
Trump.
a shelter, you need to get to one or to get to cover. The issue is that when these attacks happen in the middle of the
you all
night,
tired of
it's
losing?
challenging.
Yeah,
Sometimes
winning all
people
the
are so
time. It's
exhausted, they sleep through
exhausting.
the alarms. They don't
That's
see
crazy.
the text. Or they simply just don't go to the shelter. And it can be
That's
deadly. As we
crazy.
saw today, they were pulling bodies out of the rubble of this apartment building. And again, I just want to show you the scene here, Ashley, as the sun rises here in Tel Aviv. You can see the aftermath of this strike more clearly. I have been to this area, and I'm being, again, very careful about talking about this. I've been to this area countless times. It is an area with coffee shops. It is an area filled with a very popular spot to live as a young person in Tel Aviv, because you can run, you can end up going to areas where other people gather. And it is now the site of a ballistic missile attack and a tragedy for the Israeli people.
Side of the history,
you can see right now they're taking a drone into the air to see if they can gather any information from the rooftops and see if anyone was on these upper floors. Ashley?
Trey, you said that you saw bodies being brought out of this particular missile strike.
Earlier in the day, we were at another site
Did
where first
someone invite
responders
Trump
were
to the
pulling
Diddy
bodies out.
party?
And as they were pulling those bodies out from a different area of central Israel, not this location, they had the media step back as a sign of respect. And this is something that we often adhere to.
R.I.P. Trump.
I
You
remember
know it.
being here on
Get his
October
bitch
7th
ass up out of
and
here.
the days after, when they were pulling bodies out of the police station in the southern city of Sderot and other places. We try to do our best to gather the information that we need to gather to tell the world what's happening here, while taking into account that these are people with families, and also taking into account the serious operational security issues as this war continues. And as we move forward here, and I just want to show you what it looks like down this sidewalk, you can just see the amount of debris and leaves coming from these trees.
I believe all this
there
happened
are
because
buildings that are pocked with shrapnel marks.
Probably is though.
And there
Distraction.
are storefronts that are completely smashed. Yaniv, if you'll come with me here, I just want to show you. Careful, watch your step, Yaniv. But I just want to show you inside this store the destruction. And actually, this is an explosion that happened less than an hour ago. I mean, we have just arrived on the scene, but you see the amount of destruction in this store. This is a convenience store, a corner store. It has things like paper towels and flip-flops and batteries, things that people would need if they're living in this area of Tel Aviv.
That nigga ain't going nowhere.
Destroyed.
You right.
Like I said before, this is an area that is packed with civilians. There are no military locations close to where we are.
Yes, man.
We will have more information to report, hopefully later in the day, about the significance of this area. I don't want to get into it now, but people will talk about it later today, certainly. In terms of what happens now, these first responders will stay on the scene. They'll try to gather as much information as they can from people who came out of these buildings to know if anyone was trapped. And just give me 1 second.
Pray for good soul, yes. Free the immigrants. Yes.
A little bit. Can you just tell us a little bit about the scene here and what you've seen since you arrived? A little bit in English. We're live to America. What should people know? Just in English, English.
No, introduce it.
And what should people know about what happened here?
There is a missile hit in the street, and there is a damage for some building. We take off all the fire and search after injuries and trampled people.
Are you worried that there could be people under the rubble?
Yeah, until we not get into the building, we are still worried that there is some people.
Thank you so much for speaking with us. And so you can see this is a local fire personnel. There are medics on the scene. But he just there talked about what is the biggest concern right now, Ashley, and that is the possibility that there are people trapped under the rubble and debris from these collapsed buildings. And that's really in the minutes and hours ahead, and these are critical minutes because if people are injured and they survive the initial blast, they want to get to them as quickly as possible. In the distance, they're currently setting up a tent. We have seen this tent before, and this tent is used for people to check in the neighborhood, and they will give their names, and they will give their addresses, and any relatives or friends or family members that they have in the area to ensure that they can account for everyone. Right now, there are people unaccounted for. You heard directly from that local fire chief. Still, as we speak right now, Ashley, and you're going to see it in a moment, they are bringing in stretchers, preparing for the worst. We'll be very careful about what we show you here live. And in the distance, there are ambulances, and they're waiting to just see. And here's one of those orange stretchers that's being taken in by these first responders on the scene who immediately rushed to this site. Again, when we arrived here, everything was on fire. You couldn't even see the buildings. There were so many flames. As the firefighters got them extinguished, we started to gather more about what happened here, which was clearly a direct hit of an Iranian ballistic missile.
This is all Trump doing. You know it is. All Trump doing. I just want to point
out to anyone who's watching, whatever you're seeing on your screen behind Trey and the damage, whatever it looks like in this scene, it is a million times worse in real life where Trey is. You couldn't even fathom to explain and describe. I mean, you're doing a great job of describing what you're seeing, Trey, and you know, we obviously want you to stay safe, and it's hard to see and it's hard to watch. It's hard to talk about. But also, I want to talk about these first responders. They are worn completely thin doing this. What have they been telling you with the first responders and the crews, the rescue crews that you're talking to? How are they feeling? Because this is very tough.
Everybody say that, bro.
Yeah, Ashley, it's all hands on deck for these crews. They are using the Army and first responder units in the Army to respond to these scenes. And I talked to a few guys yesterday at a different site in central Israel, guys about my age, and I said, look, are you guys in the Army all the time? And they said, no, we're in what's called Miluim, reserve duty here.
Now that's crazy.
They worked in high-tech jobs in Tel Aviv, and they have gone into the Army. They were called up because of this war that has now erupted between Israel and Iran. And they were at a site basically saying, we never thought we were going to have to use these skills, just given the fact that their unit is an emergency unit in the Army. It's a last resort for when other teams are overwhelmed, firefighters and medics in the area. And so the fact that they were called up and responding to scenes, digging through rubble, looking for survivors, it speaks to just how challenging this moment is for Israel. And again, as we speak, the Israelis are continuing airstrikes against positions inside of Iran. And Iranian officials earlier in the day, just yesterday, talked about the fact that they're not willing to stop firing these ballistic missiles. And the Israelis have indicated they're not willing to stop striking Iran. So this is far from over. And the reality is that these major population centers like Tel Aviv are going to continue to pay a very heavy price with these missiles raining down. When this explosion happened, we were in a shelter in Tel Aviv, relatively far from here, not walking distance, and it shook the entire building that we were in. And I talked to a few people I know that live around here, and they said something terrible has happened. They could hear it, they could feel it. When these strikes happen, it shakes the ground, and it destroys all of the buildings in its path, in the blast radius, something like this. And again, as we get more light here, the scene is coming into reality. The aftermath of this strike is coming into reality. And as you heard from that fire chief directly, Ashley, their biggest concern is that there are Israeli civilians trapped under the rubble.
Trey, I don't know if you're seeing what I'm seeing, but I'm seeing a baby that looks
What's up, bro?
probably about 8 months old being brought out, and it is absolutely heartbreaking.
What's up with you?
We're going to actually move positions if you can stay with us here.
Yeah, of course. They're bringing babies out. They're bringing kids out. I mean, this is just from what I'm seeing in your shot now. I'm sure there's tons of children being brought out with their families that you're seeing right now.
We're leaving. Yes, and that's part of what we're trying to do here is get a better picture of that. And it's a bit of negotiation here with these first responders. It's a very tense scene. But when you move in these areas, their biggest concern is that there are buildings that could collapse. There are... And Toda. Okay, just 1 second. Stay with me, Ashley. Toda Rabba. Just stay with me, Ashley. We're trying to get to that area that you are discussing where people are being taken. And so we're just walking here into... Again, you're going to see the tent that I walk by here. And actually, this is important to explain live here, Ashley. Tent off to my right here, used by teams that are trained in first response. They have computers and they have information about the local residents so that they can try to start accounting for people. And just stay with me here, Ashley, because we just need to watch where we're going. You're going to see a lot of first responders in this area. These are the teams that are waiting for people that are being taken out.
Are these medic
and
teams,
just give me 1 moment. Yes, these are medic teams, and I'm going to just show you a different vantage point here. You can see down here, these are all medics.
Nope.
From United Hatzalah. And just stay with me. I just need to talk to the team for 1 second, Ashley.
Yes.
We're going to stand right here.
Right now. This is what's going on now, bro.
And so we're just moving back a little bit here as these teams continue to work. But I'll just show you a little bit more damage across the street here, Ashley. Again, this speaks to the blast radius when these things happen. And just be mindful of some of these signs, Yaniv. Shoot this direction. And if you look down here, you're going to see a lot of damage to storefronts. You can hear those alarms that are going off. And we won't stay in this location too long as to not to keep it so loud. But again, behind me in the distance, there are teams still going through this debris, looking for any survivors that may be trapped under the rubble.
That's crazy, Mo.
You know, I'm seeing just in the video box next to you, it looks like an older woman being brought out. How many people, like I said, this is just what I'm seeing from the video that you guys are shooting right now. How many people are you seeing them bring out right now?
I can't see the video that you are showing,
okay.
And
so
from
you're
what we
not seeing people
understand,
being
there are
brought
multiple. At this vantage point, we are not, and we also understand there are multiple impact scenes. And just stay with me here, Ash. I'm going to get away from this loud noise so that you can hear me a little bit better. We understand that there are multiple impact scenes, and so it may be somewhere else in central Israel. It may be in a location close to here. And I'm just going to show you here as these teams of first responders, they have all of this gear ready. They're prepared for these scenarios. They're often considered worst case scenarios, but they are prepared. They're ready. And that is what we're seeing now, the plan into action. But I think what is the most important point to this, and I'm just going to show you this area. And before I show it to you, you need to stay 1 second, Ashley. Stay pointed here. I'm going to give you some instructions because, again, I don't want to give away the location that we're at. Try to just shoot the front of this location. But if you look into here, wrong direction, into here,
children's school, yes,
you will see that this is a coffee shop. There's no sign, doesn't tell you the exact location, but it's a coffee shop. It's where people gather, and it's actually a relatively new coffee shop. This is 2 blocks away from the epicenter of this blast, where still as we speak, and we'll pan over here, they are, and you can see they're bringing in a generator there. They're They're trying to get the situation under control.
Sad, y'all.
I'm not sure where those images, and actually here there's
sad.
A dog that you're going to see over here. I think that's just someone else's dog. But you asked earlier about something that I'll give you the answer to now. As we're kind of moving here, I'm thinking about a lot of things at one time. You asked earlier about the first responders, Ashley, and to tell you about them, they're people, most of them who have day jobs in high tech, or they work in bars or restaurants, and they have volunteered in many cases to come into a reserve role during this war and to help and do what they can. And so today we were at the scene, and they were in a circle, and they were base spirits high, understanding that the work that they were about to do is some of the most horrific work that you could imagine, taking people's loved ones from under the path of a ballistic missile strike.
Hey, bro.
And that's exactly what was happening
and
here.
Trump want to run every
day following the.
Trump want to run.
And so when we think about what they go through, you know, we've seen a lot of this firsthand. It's challenging to process. And there was a dog earlier today, actually, that they brought. It was a resilience dog. But the responders were going over to it, and the dog, and it was a black lab with long hair, and they were petting it. And it was just this moment of peace amid so much chaos here that reminded me of what this is all for in terms of responding to these scenes. It's about trying to make people feel safe and comfortable. And so when we talk about what it's for, why these first responders do what they do, that's why, because they want to be in a situation where they can give back to their community and ensure they can help in any way possible amid this war.
Killing innocent people, bro. Yeah.
With everyone there, like you said, they have other jobs. They're just trying to help out, and that was my question. Are they? How many first responders do they have? But if they're coming from other jobs and that's just them helping out, that makes total sense. Trey Yingst, thank you so much for the work you're doing down there and giving us some insight as to what's happening. Stay safe, and we're going to be checking in with you as the news warrants.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.
Listen, man. Y'all see what Trump doing? Trump with all the bull jive, man. Right? He with all the bull jive for what's going on right now. But guess what? We ain't finished yet. We're going to keep it moving. Y'all already know. We lit.
The United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days.
But we will by Monday.
In 1983,
no, for real, right, bro?
Carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels in international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal, something like the world has never seen before. Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror, and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular, my administration,
YouTube family,
that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again. They can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore.
I told you,
Instead,
already knew what it was.
Rebuild their nuclear program.
Already knew what it was because they did not agree with him. So he brung it.
That can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military has undertaken a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that, with his help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. We have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or, in the alternative, face certain death. So, lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death. Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force.
Man.
Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless you all.
Don't upload your videos to YouTube. Upload to Restream, where we will live stream it to YouTube.
The president went on to say that American troops may lose their lives during this operation. As of now, it's unclear if there were any casualties as this news develops. I know that there are some air bases within the Middle East that are being attacked by other neighboring, or by Iran, actually, and also other countries around Iran who are friendly to the United States are also saying that they have sustained some attacks as well from Iran. And I know that Trey Yingst on Fox News this morning was saying that C-17 aircraft have been bringing in weapons to Israel over the last several days. So this is something that kind of forecasts not an attack that would last hours, but rather days.
Yeah. And one thing, he mentioned in his speech was saying that, they're doing this now. They're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it's a noble mission. So that's how he kind of closed things out. And as you can imagine, there are reactions that's just pouring in, especially from U.S. officials. So Republican Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina posted to X this morning. He says, quote, "The end of the largest state sponsor of terrorism is upon us. God bless President Trump, our military, and our allies in Israel. Freedom for the long-suffering Iranian people. This operation is necessary and long justified," end quote.
Now, the first apparent strike of this operation targeted the offices of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei.
Yeah, and his status and whereabouts still not clear at this hour. Fox News correspondent Catherine Griffin broke down the initial stages of the attack a short time ago on Fox News Channel.
This is a rare joint U.S.-Israeli operation synchronized and planned over a matter of months. A senior U.S. military official tells me this operation will last not hours, but days. Among the initial targets, the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's compound, which can be seen in satellite photos as mere rubble at this point. It's not clear whether the Ayatollah was there. Other targets in the initial wave, the Defense Ministry, the Parliament, the National Supreme Council, the Ministry of Intelligence, Iran's Atomic Energy Agency, as well as naval bases down near Bandar Abbas and Kark Island, along with targets in Bushehr, likely to include the nuclear reactor there. In the east, U.S. missiles and the Israeli Air Force struck the IRGC aerospace forces in Tabriz and Kermanshah, part of Iran's ballistic missile and satellite program. Among the top Iranian leaders targeted, Iran's president, the defense minister, and the head of the judiciary, who has issued death sentences to thousands of Iranian protesters, and former Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who once famously vowed to wipe Israel from the map. His home was struck, no word yet on casualties. Already, the Iranian response has targeted all U.S. bases in the Gulf, except U.S. bases in Oman, since the Omani foreign minister had tried to mediate the nuclear talks in Geneva, even flying to Washington, D.C. to meet Vice President J.D. Vance at the White House yesterday to try to avert what is quickly turning into a regional war. A missile landed near the U.S. Navy Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain, but I'm told there were no casualties, and Qatar intercepted at least one incoming missile targeting Al Udeid Air Base. Hundreds of military targets have been struck by the U.S. military and the Israeli Air Force. Iran state television has been knocked off the air as well.
At the skyline of Tel Aviv, there in Israel, both U.S. and Israeli defense forces across the Middle East are on alert for more retaliatory strikes by Iran. U.S. embassies and consulates across the Middle East and Israel are under shelter in that area, and they've issued a shelter-in-place order for all of the residents there. Again, this joint operation was planned for months, according to the Israeli government. And I mentioned before, Trey Yingst was saying C-17 aircraft have been coming in and out of Israel, bringing more weapons. This will take some time to assess the damage in Iran from the initial wave of airstrikes, but so far there are just scattered reports of casualties from the retaliation strikes. State TV in Syria is reporting this morning that 4 people were killed by Iranian missile strikes in the southern part of the country. And of course, we're monitoring all of these developments. CNN is saying that Marco Rubio did in fact notify at least some of the Gang of 8 about the attack, the Gang of 8 being the 8 members of Congress from both parties that by law are briefed on classified information by the executive branch. So.
Yeah, all this unfolding. So your time right now is 7:14 as we continue coverage. We're going to be right back with coverage in the Middle East.
I'm telling you, man, Uncle Trump, he gonna kill all of us.
Morning live look at DFW Airport.
He is crazy,
now,
bro.
7:23. We have continuing coverage now of the military strikes on Iran. The fallout is affecting global air travel in the Middle East. Flight maps show the airspace over Iran completely empty after those airstrikes in that region. Israel, Iran, Iraq, and Jordan have all reportedly closed their airspace as well. You can see flights avoided those areas there in the Middle East. Flights to those countries have been halted in several European countries, even Russia halting flights there. Those impacts could continue this weekend as tensions continue to escalate.
The United States and Israel launching blistering attacks against targets inside Iran.
Yeah, the hope is that they will degrade the Islamic Republic's military and nuclear capabilities and bring about regime change. Fox News correspondent Rebecca Castor has the latest from Washington.
We saw the military buildup go on for months, and today, in broad
Man,
daylight,
look what's going on right now
attacked Iran.
in front of
Thick
our
plumes
eyes.
of smoke drifting across
Right,
Tehran on Saturday morning as President Trump announced the start of strikes against the
That's
Iranian
crazy.
regime.
The United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests.
The first target was apparently aimed at Iran's supreme leader, although he was reportedly taken to a secure location.
This is not a surprise that they would start out by attacking where Khamenei resides, because what the U.S. military would go after would be command and control, and that's the ultimate command and control. It's the ultimate message against the leadership that has been so intransigent.
The attacks coming after multiple rounds of talks in Geneva between the U.S., Iran, and Oman failed to convince Iran to abandon its nuclear program.
Dancing in the streets of Tel Aviv.
Sirens in Israel were heard, and alerts went out on phones as Iran launched its own retaliatory strikes, which could go on for days, if not longer. The president called on Iran to surrender, but he also had a stark warning for the American people.
The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war.
Congress has not signed off on this attack, and that will start a huge debate here in Washington. Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego posted his opposition on X, saying we can support democracy in Iran without sending troops to die. In Washington, Rebecca Castor, Fox News.
To the joint attacks from the U.S. and Israel. Dan.
Well, Tizia, the Iranian response has targeted almost all U.S. military bases in the Persian Gulf region, but it doesn't appear there's been much impact to those facilities yet. Missile landed near the U.S. Navy 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain, but Fox News was told there were no casualties, and Qatar intercepted at least one incoming missile targeting Al Udeid Air Base. The word we're getting from Israel, air raid sirens are sounding across the country of about 9.5 million people, especially the largest cities, Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, and Haifa in the north. Iran has started its response. Millions of Israelis are in bomb shelters. The sirens that sounded across Tel Aviv were a signal of incoming ballistic missile fire towards the central part of Israel. There have been missile interceptions over Tel Aviv. Those have created some large explosions in the sky sky as interceptor rounds collide with the missiles. According to sources in Haifa, there is missile fire towards that city, but no impacts reported. Alerts are going out to personal phones of people across Israel. Similar alerts going out through the Israeli news media. The U.S. and Israel attack launched this morning will almost certainly involve striking some of Iran's missile launching positions, as many as the U.S. and Israel can hit. The air defense systems in Israel remain on high alert. President Trump earlier this morning indicating that this is going to be a massive and ongoing operation, adding that the Iranians were given diplomatic opportunities to avoid this, and they did not take them.
Trump ain't
Fox
going like
News
that, bro.
correspondent
You
Trey
know
East
that.
is also following these
Trump is not
developments
going
from
like
Tel
that.
Aviv.
Remember, the Israelis have extensive
this shit,
intelligence
y'all.
operations
This
that
shit
are
sad.
unfolding as we speak inside of Iran.
very sad.
During the 12-day war last year, in their opening series of strikes, they killed nearly the entire command structure of the IRGC, and they were able to do that by using their intelligence operations on the ground to track where these officials were located and then hit them with bunker buster bombs. And that's likely what they used in order to go after the leadership in this round. We should note, though, that all of this is being coordinated at an extremely high level, and I'm told from Israeli officials that this was months of planning. President Trump certainly was able to sign off on all of the operations that are taking place now. This was a hand-in-glove operation, as it was described to me by one official, ensuring that not only the offensive capabilities were in place for the Americans and the Israelis, and everyone knew their role, but also the defensive capabilities to shoot down the incoming fire that's now targeting Gulf countries and the state of Israel. Remember, President Trump is a man who, back in 2020, killed who was largely seen by the Iranians as a deity, Qasem Soleimani, outside of Baghdad's international airport. He ordered a drone strike against Iran's top general. And then during the war last year, he ordered the strikes against Iran's nuclear facilities, destroying these underground facilities inside of Iran. And so the Iranians had an opportunity for diplomacy, and that's the thing that we hear time and time again from officials. And they came to the table, and they were not willing to be flexible enough as it relates to their nuclear program and their expanding ballistic missile program. And that's the reason that President Trump decided to move forward with this operation to go after not only Iranian leadership, but the entire military command structure. And we do expect this to last for several more days, as the Israelis and the Americans want to use this opportunity, as President Trump said overnight, to encourage the Iranian people to rise up and take this historic opportunity for regime change.
The fact that Iranian missiles are being fired in 1 or 2 missile volleys is an indication that the Iranians may have been hit quite hard when it comes to their missile launching positions during the 12-day war last June, when they were sometimes firing dozens of missiles at a time.
I feel bad
again,
about
that
that, so I ain't
capability
even lying.
may have been significantly degraded. The latest report from the ground indicates there are no casualties in Israel, but that country is looking both north and south to Iranian proxies like Hezbollah and the Houthis over concerns they may get involved in the battle. Kezia and Brandon.
All right, Dan, thank you so much. 7:30 is your time right now. We'll be right back with continued coverage.
Good Day continues at 7:30 a.m. here on Fox 4.
Welcome back. Thanks for starting your morning with us. I'm TCM Muzinga.
And I'm Brandon Todd. We are back with continuing coverage on the war in the Middle East.
President Donald Trump says the U.S. is now involved in military operations in Iran after Israel launched airstrikes early this morning.
Iranian
I
media
feel sad
reported
about, man, what's going on around there.
With smoke rising from the capital in Tehran, Israeli forces say they have launched preemptive strikes near the offices of Iran's supreme leader.
I feel
Israeli
sad.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the attacks are to remove the existential threat posed by Iran. The U.S. joined the fight by launching Tomahawk missiles from Navy vessels and also from the air. The joint attack has now been dubbed Operation Epic Fury by the Pentagon. Comes as peace negotiations on Iran's nuclear program have failed. President Trump said on social media that it is time to take out the current Iranian regime. He also called on the people of Iran to take their country back. He urged Iranian forces to lay down their weapons or be destroyed.
A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate...
Well, the president also...
Oh, yeah. I does my investigation. With your popcorn, we did the job that needed to be done. How can Americans like this fake president crazy? Who knows, bruh?
West Asia is at war. After weeks of American build-up, the attacks began today. The U.S. and Israel struck Iran. Iran promptly fired back with waves of ballistic missiles across the region. American bases in multiple countries are under fire. Gulf skies are lit up by interceptors and civilians are evacuating in some places. There are conflicting reports about the Iranian leadership. We'll tell you what each side is saying. Also looking at the firepower that the Americans have amassed and how Iran is poised. Can it sustain a prolonged war? As expected, this has hit travel. Airspaces are shut. Flights have been cancelled and plans disrupted. We'll bring you the updates, the global reactions, and what this means for the region and the world. This is a special edition of Vantage. The headlines first. Lebanon's prime minister says his country won't be dragged into Iran's war with the US and Israel. Authorities fear Hezbollah, the Iran-backed group, could become involved in the conflict. Beirut has also condemned Tehran's attacks on the Gulf countries, which were in response to the US and Israeli strikes. Afghanistan says it has downed a Pakistani fighter jet and captured its pilot in the eastern city of Jalalabad, but Islamabad has denied these claims. On Friday, Pakistan had launched airstrikes on several cities
everywhere.
across Afghanistan. Kabul says it has also carried out counter-strikes on Islamabad. OpenAI strikes a deal with Pentagon. Its models will now be used by the U.S. Defense Agency. The move comes after Donald Trump blacklisted OpenAI's rival Anthropic. Trump ordered his administration to stop using Anthropic after it refused to agree to unconditional military use of its models. At least 20 people killed in a military cargo plane crash in Bolivia. The accident took place while the aircraft was trying to land. The plane was carrying banknotes. After the crash, people rushed to grab the scattered cash. The police had to deploy tear gas to repel them. And thousands of people protest across Greece as they mark the third anniversary of the country's worst train disaster. 57 people were killed in the crash in 2023. Train and ferry services were suspended today. In March, nearly 40 people will go on trial for this tragedy.
A lot of money.
Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass.
West Asia is at war. No more doubts or diplomacy, no more half measures or limited strikes. The United States and Israel have unleashed an all-out war on Iran. As we speak, waves of ballistic missiles are flying over the region. Interceptor missiles are streaking through the air. Citizens are in bunkers or fleeing cities. It's the most dangerous moment in West Asia since the Iraq War, more than 20 years ago. We're looking at a mass casualty event a war that could reshape the region and indeed the world. So how did it all start? Around noon here in India, reports started trickling in. Israeli jets began striking targets in the Iranian capital, Tehran. Israel's defense minister confirmed this. He called it a preemptive attack. At that point, everyone had just one question. Was this a lone Israeli attack? Or would the Americans join in? That was the question. In a few hours, we got the answer. American warships fired Tomahawk missiles from sea. They slammed into Iranian military targets across the country. And then Donald Trump dropped a video message. He announced the start of what he called major combat operations against Iran. He promised to obliterate Iran's missile program.
The United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission.
What you heard was a big admission from U.S. President Donald Trump. He says American soldiers may lose their lives and that the U.S. machinery may be destroyed. It tells you how massive this operation is. And the bigger the operation, the bigger the retaliation. Reports say there is a clear division of roles in this attack. Israel has deep knowledge of the Iranian leadership and regime. So the Israeli military is hitting regime targets in Iran. Meanwhile, the U.S. military is targeting Iranian missiles and missile launchers. As always, Israel has released footage of its operations. Take a look.
You know, we up. I listen to you. You know I listen to you. You already know.
This is 7 November Golf. Roger, request you check your Romeo side. I'll go ahead and check my Tango side. 7 November Golf out.
Look at that shit, bro. Oh man, you hear me, sir? For real, look at this shit, bro.
Israel has set ambitious goals. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wants to denuclearize Iran, and he too is openly talking about regime change.
Together with the United States, we will strike the terror regime harshly. We will create the conditions that will allow the brave Iranian people to rid themselves of the burden of this murderous regime. This is your chance to establish a new and free Iran. Take your fate into your own hands. Raise your head. Lift your eyes to the sky. Our forces are there, pilots of the free world. Everyone is coming to your aid. Help has arrived, and I believe the day is near when Israel and free Iran will hold hands in favor of security and peace, in favor of progress and prosperity.
Iran says one of the targets was a primary school. They claim that Israel killed 51 girls with a single strike. Iran's foreign minister has also posted pictures of the aftermath. Now, frankly, this attack was not a surprise. The U.S. had assembled a massive armada in West Asia, so an attack was always coming. We've been talking about it on the show. Iran, too, was probably ready for the attack. In June last year, the Iranians took time to hit back at Israel, but this time they responded within hours. The Iranian military's trump card is its missile stockpile. Tehran is said to have more than 3,000 ballistic missiles, and they're firing these missiles in waves at enemy targets. But just like Iran, Israel and America are also better prepared this time. The U.S. has positioned warships near the Israeli port of Haifa. Together with Israel, they're shooting down Iranian missiles.
And that's exactly what he's doing. But Joe, he killing innocent people by doing that shit, though. That's the killer point. He killing innocent people. Yeah, no.
As far as wars go, this is a strange one. Iran and Israel do not share a border, so there is no question of fighting on the ground. It's all aerial. Missiles from Iran take around 12 minutes to reach Israel. There's a 12-minute period, and that gives them enough time to intercept those missiles. And yet last year, that 12-minute period was not enough. Almost 50 Iranian missiles hit Israeli cities, 50 missiles. And that forced Israel to agree to a ceasefire. But this time, there are two key differences. One, both Israel and the U.S. are ready for a long and sustained operation. They're not hitting Iranian nuclear sites. They're hitting military and leadership targets.
Even at this very hour, Air Force squadrons and pilots are striking across Iran. We are all with them and behind them. The operation will continue for as long as required.
So that's the first difference, hitting leadership targets. Israel and the US are in it for the long haul. And secondly, Iran is even weaker than the last time. A lot of their missile launchers are being targeted, so Iran's ability to sustain this attack is in question. They're prepared, yes, but do they have the capability? And that's the big question. Iran knows that it cannot defeat Israel or the US militarily, so their strategy is to increase costs on both sides. And a big part of that are the Gulf states.
Old bully goat. Nah, for real.
Last June, Iran limited its attacks to Israel. It carried out symbolic strikes on a US base in Qatar. That's all that Iran did. But the end goal was to limit the fallout. This time, it's the opposite. Iran wants to drag in Gulf Arab countries. Iran wants to risk the regional economy and security. And why is that? So that the Gulf countries will urge Donald Trump to de-escalate. And we are seeing that strategy unfold as we speak. Iranian missiles and drones have targeted multiple US bases in the region today. Among the first to be hit was Bahrain. The American base in Manama is home to the US Navy's 5th Fleet. This base was hit by an Iranian projectile earlier today. Take a look at this.
Ya Allah! Ya Allah!
Damn! Damn! Look at that shit, young! Wow!
And this was just the start. Soon explosions filled the skies over Arab nations. In fact, let me pull up the map for you. In Qatar, the Al Udeid base was targeted. This is the headquarters of the US Military Central Command. In Kuwait, multiple bases came under fire. In the UAE, explosions were heard in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. One foreign national was killed by the falling debris. In Saudi Arabia, explosions were heard in the capital Riyadh. The city is home to the Prince Sultan base. Other targets included the Erbil base in Iraq and the Muwaffaq Salti base in Jordan. Like I said, the attack on Bahrain was a direct hit. The Iranian projectile hit a service center at the base, but most of the other attacks are being repelled. You see, these American bases are equipped with U.S. air defenses like the Patriot surface-to-air missiles, and those are being used to bring down the Iranian missiles. Of course, interception leads to debris. And this has become a problem in some countries, this falling debris. For instance, Bahrain is evacuating residential areas in Manama. They fear the falling debris could lead to casualties. Naturally, these attacks have enraged the Gulf Arab states. Look at what Saudi Arabia is saying. I'm quoting, "The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia condemns and denounces in strongest terms the blatant Iranian aggression and the flagrant violation of the sovereignty of the UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait and Jordan. The Kingdom affirms its full solidarity with and unwavering support for the brotherly countries and its readiness to place all its capabilities at their disposal in support of any measures they may undertake."
Who knows?
Now, for these countries, the fear is very clear. What if Iran expands the attacks to non-military locations? Maybe oil refineries or other facilities. Then their economies will directly get affected. So it is in their interest to repel these Iranian attacks. But here's the problem. There is a rising anti-Israel sentiment among the people in these countries, in these Gulf Arab states. So these regimes cannot be seen as helping Israel defeat Iran. And we saw that in the lead up to this war. Multiple Arab states drew a red line for the US. They cut off their airspace for operations against Iran. Though now we appear to be beyond that, the Arab countries want to protect their people and their economy first, and for that they will support the United States. If not in public, then certainly in private. In the coming days, these countries could play an important role. States like Qatar and Saudi Arabia have very warm ties with Donald Trump. They also have long-standing business ties with him and his family. So if anyone can pull back Trump, it's the Gulf Arab states. And that depends on the next few days. If Iran expands these attacks on Gulf countries, their opinion may change. Their biggest fear is a suicidal attack from Iran. You see, if the Iranian regime feels it is on the brink, it may lash out.
Should be going on.
Basically attack anything and everything in the region. And that's the scenario that these countries want to avoid. The United States and Israel did not just bomb Iran, they went for the nerve center, the very top of the power structure, the leadership of the country. Starting this morning, explosions have echoed across Iran, in Tehran, in Isfahan, in Kermanshah, Tabriz, Qom, and even naval facilities in Kenaruk. But the most sensitive strikes were in North Tehran. And even there, one compound stood out. This is where Iran's supreme leader is known to reside. That is Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He is the supreme leader. Reports say smoke was seen rising from this area, and the obvious question was, where was Khamenei? Where is Iran's supreme leader?
Y'all going on,
reports say that he moved to a secure location well in advance. And this is not unprecedented. We've seen this happen before. Last year, for instance, we saw a war in Iran, the 12-day war, and that's when the US struck Iran's nuclear sites. Khamenei was shifted to a bunker then. And last month, in January, there were similar reports. Khamenei was operating from an underground facility. So this time it was the same. He was taken to a safe area. But what about his condition? Is he safe? Well, one Israeli media report says that he has been injured. Another report says he could have been killed in the first wave of strikes. This is what the Israeli media is saying, that Khamenei could have been killed. Meanwhile, Iran says he is very much alive. Now, it's hard to verify which account is true. In the fog of war, there is a lot of information and misinformation doing the rounds, sometimes deliberately, by the warring parties, so it's best to take things with a pinch of salt at this point. And while Khamenei's condition is not very clear, let's also look at the other target, the presidential palace in Tehran's Shemiran district. This is the residence of Iran's president, Masoud Pezeshkian.
These niggas got land.
According to multiple reports, the American target list included all senior leadership figures.
You already know.
At the very top, of course, was Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran. He was the top target. Then you have Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian, Iran's army chief, senior security decision makers, members of top defense councils, and commanders of the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. The IRGC is different from the army. The IRGC does not guard Iranian people. Its sole job is to protect the Iranian regime, the Ayatollah. Reports suggest that 2 of the top leadership were killed. Iran's defense minister Amir Hatami and IRGC commander Mohammad Pakpour. But Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi says all top officials are safe. So again, we don't know which account is true. Now, this shows that Israel and the US had a clear strategy going into this one. Decapitate Iran's top leadership. Erase the people who control the system. Once they're out, the regime will collapse on its own. That is the plan, it seems, because in Iran, real power does not sit with the president, it sits with the supreme leader. The Islamic Revolution, as you would know, happened in 1979. The first supreme leader was Ruhollah Khomeini. His successor was Ali Khamenei, the current leader.
Hey,
this one came to power in 1989, and he's ruled Iran since then. He controls the military, the judiciary, the intelligence apparatus, the Revolutionary Guards, and the foreign policy.
Trump got us in war.
If you want to shake Iran's system, you don't start at the bottom, you go for the head. But here's where this gets interesting. Like I said, people often assume that if you remove one man, the system will collapse. That may not happen in the case of Iran, because while the Ayatollah controls everything, Iran's power structure is more like a hydra. If you cut one head, another will emerge. If Khamenei is killed, Iran's constitution will activate the Assembly of Experts. That's a powerful clerical body. They will come together to select a successor. In fact, names have been floating for years. But lately, there is only one name that is doing the rounds, and that is Ali Larijani. He currently heads Iran's Supreme National Security Council. It's a body that sits at the very peak of decision-making. And he is an insider. Larijani. He has served as a close advisor to Khamenei himself. He cannot become the supreme leader.
That's right.
Because he's not a cleric. But reports suggest that Khamenei has entrusted him with a critical mission. His job is to ensure the continuity of the regime. But what if Ali Larijani is also eliminated in these strikes? What happens then? Because the US says it will continue this mission for days. And if it manages to kill the leadership, 2 things can happen in Iran. One, it could be the end of this regime. The top leadership falls, the bottom rung collapses, and Iran's political landscape changes overnight. That is one possibility. The second is that the regime gets stronger. That too is a possibility, because these strikes could strengthen hardliners in Iran. And nothing unites a regime like an external threat. So the question is not what happens if you strike the head. The question is what sprouts when you cut that head. Because hydras don't die easily. Sometimes they become even more dangerous. The question most of you have been asking us today is this: how long will this last? And the honest answer is, it can go on for as long as Donald Trump wants, because he has amassed some serious firepower in the region. We've been telling you about it on the show for weeks now. This is the biggest US military deployment in the region since the invasion of Iraq. And that was in the year 2003. This time, the Americans have stationed everything: ships, troops, missiles, plus they have military bases across the region, across West Asia. Basically, they have encircled Iran. I'll pull up the map again for you. That's Iran in the middle, you see. To its west is Iraq. To its east are Afghanistan and Pakistan. To the south, you have the Persian Gulf, the Arabian Sea, and the Indian Ocean. Now, look at this map closely, and you'll notice something striking. There is an American military asset in every direction. Reports say the US has at least 2 aircraft carriers, more than 12 warships, dozens of aircraft, and anywhere between 40 to 50,000 troops, 40 to 50,000 soldiers in West Asia. US President Donald Trump called this build-up an armada, and for once he was not exaggerating. Let's also look at the deployment more closely, starting with the sea. Near Iran's southern borders, the Americans have deployed the USS Abraham Lincoln. This is an aircraft carrier. It functions like a floating military base. It is accompanied by 3 warships, which are armed with the Tomahawk missiles, the same missiles that were used to attack Iran today. It is quite possible that those Tomahawk missiles came from this ship. Now, the Tomahawk is a long-range precision strike missile, and it's not the only weapon on this carrier. The Abraham Lincoln also has a fleet of stealth fighters and attack planes, all of them within striking distance of Iran. And like I said, this is not the only aircraft carrier. The Americans have also deployed a second one in the region. It's called the USS Gerald R. Ford. This is in Israel at the Haifa port. It docked there a few days back. Now, the Ford is the biggest aircraft carrier in the world. It is accompanied by 3 guided missile destroyers. So if you put them together, the Lincoln and the Ford, they have dozens of aircraft and multiple warships between them.
They like war.
And then you have the military
they
bases,
like war,
American military bases.
About that.
There's one in Jordan,
they
to the west of
definitely
Iran.
like war.
This too is an American military
Trump
base.
was
It is called
everybody.
the Muwaffaq Salti Air Base. It sits
Trump
close to the border with Iraq.
Huh?
The U.S. has a large number of
he got
jets
all this
stationed
shit
here.
going on
More than
for
60
some money. That's the
attack
only thing
aircraft,
it is. He
4
just wants some money.
electronic warfare jets,
Trump just wants some
at least
money,
5
man.
MQ-9 Reaper drones,
he ain't trying
and
to
the
block
Patriot
nothing.
air defense systems.
This shit that's just happening.
Again, Jordan is within
He ain't
striking
trying to block
range of Western
nothing, bro.
Iran. Of course,
With
the
that
U.S. has
foul
assets
shit,
in Israel too.
that shit gonna go on.
They have an air
But he
base
the
in southern
president,
Israel
man. He could,
with 11
he could dent all that
F-22
shit.
stealth fighters. The F-22 is one of the most advanced combat aircraft in the world. It is invisible to radar and it can strike targets deep inside Iran. Now let's zoom out. Look at the wider Gulf region. The U.S. has a total of 8 long-term bases and 11 other military sites spread out across the region. Some of these bases are vital for this
Trump,
mission,
man.
like the 2 air bases in
money.
Iraq.
He want
they
all
have
money.
aircraft and
Trump want
choppers
all money.
and around 2,500 troops
Trump already
and
knew this shit was gonna go on.
In Qatar, the U.S. has its
He gonna
largest
go over there
military
and get
base
all
in this
that
region.
land.
It's called the Al Udeid
Yeah,
Air Base.
that's his plan.
It has anywhere between
When they
8 to
tell him
10,000
no,
troops.
bro, is a billionaire
Then there is
already.
Bahrain.
Yes.
There's an American base in Bahrain. Iran attacked it earlier today.
Look, man.
This base hosts the U.S.
This shit's sad, man.
fleet.
You got innocent people,
The
man.
fleet
They ain't got
that looks
nothing,
after all
nothing to do
American
with none of
naval
that
operations
shit.
in the region.
Innocent fucking people, bro.
Iran also hit Kuwait today.
They ain't got nothing to do
That
with
is
none of
where
that shit,
the
bro.
U.S. Central Command is headquartered.
I don't think the shit
Missiles
cool.
were fired
I
at the
really
UAE,
don't.
Saudi Arabia, and Qatar
I
too.
really don't think it's cool.
Not all
I
of them
really
got
don't.
through, though.
Hell no, I
And
don't.
Iran is far from done, of course, so expect those strikes to
I don't
continue.
need like
the
war
U.S.
and
military
shit.
also has presence in the south. They have a critical base
but
to
it's just
support their
Trump.
operations.
If you don't,
We're talking about
if you
the base
don't
in
agree
Diego
with
Garcia.
him,
It sits
you
in the
gonna
middle
go
of
to
the
war
Indian
with him.
Ocean. This one
That's
is far
how he
from Iran,
figure. He ain't
but it's
tripping
a
off
very
that shit.
significant base
That's
when
the
it comes to this
problem,
war.
bro. That's the problem.
It is from Diego Garcia that the U.S. runs surveillance flights over the region. It can
he could go to
refuel
war,
fighter jets mid-air
right?
and
He could go
conduct
to war
special operations.
and go hide.
So
like
the warships
he
are
is.
at sea.
He hide now.
Hundreds of aircraft are on standby and thousands of troops are ready to
You know what I'm
fire.
saying? He hide
America
right
has
now.
built a formidable military presence around Iran. So how long can they sustain a war? According to one claim, the U.S. can go on for 7 to 10 days with the current military stockpile. Another report says they're set for a military campaign which can last, and I'm quoting, several days. They certainly have the muscle to do it. Iran has retaliated against the U.S. strikes, but can it sustain itself in the long haul? Can Iran fight a prolonged war? Do they have the firepower and the money to pull it off? Let's look at the Iranian forces first. On the face of it, Iran looks strong. Its regular army commands roughly 600,000 troops, plus they have the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the personal army of the Ayatollah. That's another 200,000 personnel, 2 lakh fighters. So if you put the army and the IRGC together, that's a total of some 800,000 uniformed men. Like I said, the regular forces handle conventional defense. The IRGC are the guardians of the regime. In many ways, they're more powerful than the army. They protect the revolution. They protect the supreme leader, and they call the shots. So yes, Iran has the numbers. What about weapons? Well, not so impressive on that front. Can Iran launch precision air campaigns like Israel? It cannot. Its air force operates around 350 aircraft, but these are aging jets. Many of them are American-made. They were bought before the Islamic Revolution of 1979, back when Washington and Tehran were allies. That's 40 years ago. So 4 decades later, those planes are relics. But that is not to say that Iran is toothless. It does have other tools, like missiles and drones, and a lot of them. Iran has already fired waves of missiles at Israel and US bases across the region. Tehran is believed to possess over 3,000 ballistic missiles, many capable of reaching Tel Aviv. And then there are the drones, especially the Shahid drones. This is a loitering munition designed to crash into its target and explode. Iran supplied hundreds of these drones to Russia, and they proved deadly against Ukraine. Now, similar systems are being used in West Asia. So yes, Iran can strike directly with men, missiles, and drones. In fact, they're already doing it. But their real power has always been indirect. It's their network of regional proxies, the Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and Hamas in Gaza. For decades, Tehran has armed them, funded them, and trained them, and they gave Iran a deterrent. Over the past few months, that deterrent has been weakened. But there is still some strategic advantage there. Take the Houthis, for example. They say they will resume attacks on ships in the Red Sea. The Houthis will start attacking ships in the Red Sea. Basically, they're joining Iran's campaign. So Iran can defend itself. It has the numbers, it has the missiles, it has the drones, it has the proxies across the region. What it doesn't have is money. Iran cannot afford a long war. Its economy is battered. Years of sanctions have bled the country. In 2015, they sealed a nuclear deal, and that gave them some relief. But a few years later, in 2018, the United States walked out of the deal.
Here it is.
That's when Iran's currency, the rial, collapsed. Inflation spiraled and purchasing power evaporated. Today, the currency has lost more than 95% of its value since 2018. Food prices have doubled. Salaries look bigger on paper but are shrinking in value. An economy under that kind of stress will find it hard to sustain war because wars are expensive. Missiles cost money, drones cost money, mobilization costs money, and subsidies to calm angry citizens, that costs even more money. And that last one is important because do remember, the citizens of Iran are angry. The last round of economic pain triggered protests. The protests began over the cost of living crisis, but soon turned political. Thousands of people were killed and thousands of others were wounded. Yes, the regime survived, but at a huge cost. Now imagine this pressure multiplied. If oil exports are disrupted, if more sanctions follow, if the rial slides further, will ordinary Iranians tolerate it, or will they put more pressure on the regime? The leadership in Tehran understands this dilemma. Military retaliation projects strength, but prolonged escalation has bigger risks. So yes, Iran can fight. Yes, it can strike back, but can it sustain a prolonged confrontation?
And that's the problem.
And that is the real battlefield.
Yeah,
and that is where the future of this conflict.
They ain't got enough money to keep going to war. That's the problem.
The economic toll of this conflict is already evident. The biggest blow has landed on aviation. As missiles flew over Iran, flights turned back mid-air within minutes. Airports fell into chaos. Passengers across key routes have been left stranded with no clear way back home. The world's biggest carriers have pulled out of operating flights from West Asia. Emirates, British Airways, Air France, Lufthansa. And from India, Air India and Indigo have cancelled flights too.
Man.
But the impact of this disruption runs deep. The cities that power global aviation like Dubai, Doha and Abu Dhabi are caught in the crossfire.
You can't go nowhere.
So if you had plans to fly, or if today's chaos has left you stranded, what can you do in this situation? What are your rights and your options? Our next report tells you.
I ain't going in the air. If I ain't got
This is what war looks like from 35,000 feet. When the rockets flew over Iran, civilian aircraft scattered. Flights peeled away from Iranian airspace quickly.
That's crazy.
As the conflict spread across the region, dozens of planes were left circling because the countries below them were shutting their airspace one by one. One flight tells the story better than any map. An Air India flight from New Delhi to Tel Aviv was flying over Saudi airspace when the war began. Left with no options, the plane had to turn back and head to Mumbai. This is not just one flight. At airports across the region, the panic is visible. The list of airlines cancelling flights in West Asia reads like a roll call of global aviation. Emirates, Qatar Airways, Air France, British Airways, Lufthansa, Virgin Atlantic, and more. Every single one of them has either cancelled flights outright or suspended operations across the region indefinitely. Even top Indian carriers like Air India and Indigo have suspended all of their flights to West Asia. It's a big blow for the aviation sector at large, because cities like Dubai, Doha, and Abu Dhabi, they act like corridors of international travel. West Asia is not just a conflict zone, it is the engine room of global aviation. 3 of the world's largest international airlines are based right here. Emirates in Dubai, Qatar Airways in Doha, Etihad in Abu Dhabi. All of them are now impacted. It's an ordeal for the hundreds of passengers who now find themselves stranded at airports, even if the airlines resume flights. Experts say it could be days or even weeks before stranded passengers can reach their destinations. It simply is not a good time to take a flight. The message from governments around the world is now blunt and consistent. Do not travel. Multiple countries have issued formal advisories. They have warned their citizens to stay away from Iran. For those already living across West Asia, the guidance goes further. Citizens have been asked to limit their movement, stay indoors, and be ready, take shelter. These are not routine travel warnings. Governments issue advisories like these when they believe the risk is real and immediate. India's Ministry of External Affairs has now issued advisories, country by country. For Indians in Iran, the message is unambiguous. Leave now, by any means available. In Israel, Indians have been told to exercise the utmost caution, stay close to designated shelters, and avoid all non-essential travel within the country. Across the Gulf, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, the advisory is to avoid unnecessary travel. Follow local authorities and stay alert. So, what do these wave of disruptions mean for you? If you have a flight booked to or through West Asia, check its status before you leave your home. Do not assume it is operating. If you are already stranded in one of the affected countries, contact your nearest embassy immediately. Register your presence and ask about evacuation options. If your flight has been cancelled, ask your airline about rebooking on routes that avoid the conflict zone entirely.
Fact.
You may also be entitled to compensation to cover accommodation and meals for the duration of the delay. Keep every receipt. You may need it when you file a claim. Times are uncertain, and your best bet is to be cautious.
Right now, this is not just a regional flare-up. It's a moment that could redraw fault lines across West Asia and beyond. From the United Nations to Moscow, from Brussels to New Delhi, the reactions are pouring in. Some call it aggression, others call it consequence, but everyone agrees on one thing: the stakes have never been higher. The United Nations Security Council has called for an emergency meeting, which means diplomats will gather in a room, deliver strongly worded speeches, express deep concern, call for maximum restraint, and then adjourn for coffee. It won't change anything, but our next report takes a look at the global reaction.
It won't change anything.
Right now, the question isn't who started it, but who can stop it. As America, Israel, and Iran trade fire, the entire world is holding its breath. Especially the United Nations. The UN's human rights chief, Volker Turk, did not mince words. He condemned both the U.S.-Israel strikes and Iran's retaliation. His message was simple: more attacks will only bring death, destruction, and human misery. Then came Russia. It has condemned the strikes as a pre-planned and unprovoked act of armed aggression. Moscow accused Washington and Tel Aviv of pushing the region toward what it called a possible radiological catastrophe. On the other side, Ukraine blamed Iran. Kiev argued that Tehran's own violent actions domestically and internationally triggered the response.
Although Ukrainians never threatened Iran, but the Iranian regime chose to be Putin's accomplice and supplied him with Shahid drones. And not only with the drones themselves, but also with the technology. Iran also provided Russia with other weapons.
Two completely different narratives. One sees aggression, the other sees consequence. And that's the global divide in a nutshell. Across Europe, the tone was anxious. The European Union called the situation perilous. European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen stressed one thing above all: nuclear safety. France's President Emmanuel Macron went even further. He warned the conflict could have grave consequences for international peace and security. He also called for an urgent UN Security Council meeting. Even the African Union stepped in, calling for immediate de-escalation. But why is Africa worried? It's because a war in West Asia doesn't stay in West Asia. Oil prices spike, food prices rise, shipping routes get disrupted. And it is already happening. Reports suggest some oil companies have suspended fuel shipments in Strait of Hormuz. The strait is the world's most important oil choke point. 20% of the world's oil passes through it. India says it is deeply concerned about the latest developments in Iran and the Gulf. New Delhi's message is clear: restraint, not retaliation. The government has urged all sides to avoid escalation and prioritize civilian safety. It has called for dialogue and diplomacy to cool tensions, while stressing that sovereignty and territorial integrity must be respected. But India isn't just issuing statements. Indian missions across the region are in touch with Indian nationals. Advisories have been issued, asking citizens to remain vigilant, stay connected with embassies, and strictly follow local security guidance. This is important because it directly affects millions of Indians living and working in the Gulf. But not everyone focused on de-escalation. Norway's foreign minister argued Israel broke international law. Under international rules, a preemptive strike is justified only if there is an imminent threat. Norway is basically asking, was there one? But amid all the reactions, there is a very different voice doing the rounds. Reza Pahlavi, son of Iran's last Shah, said, "Final victory is near," and urged Iranians to rebuild the country. That's regime change language. So while governments are calling for restraint, opposition figures are seeing an opportunity here. And that adds another layer to the crisis: internal instability. So the world is asking for restraint, but restraint only works if all sides choose it. Right now, West Asia is a tinderbox. One strike led to retaliation. Retaliation is leading to more escalation, and this could spiral into a global crisis and a wider regional conflict.
So what does this war mean for the world? We can split the impact into 4 categories. The first is obviously the energy risk. West Asia is home to the largest oil producers in the world. You've got Saudi Arabia, you've got the UAE and Qatar. These countries keep our energy market stable. Put together, they make up 30% of the global oil production. And right now, that is at risk. Iran is targeting US bases in the Gulf. But if the situation escalates, they could expand the attacks, basically hit oil facilities or refineries. If that happens, oil supplies will be hampered, meaning oil prices will surge. They've already jumped by around 5% today. More attacks could drive them up further. Some experts say by nearly 20%. Oil prices could go up by 20%. That's the expectation. And this is not Iran's only leverage. They also have the ability to shut off a crucial oil trade route. That's the Strait of Hormuz. This waterway carries around 20% of global oil trade. If Iran blockades or mines this route, the Strait of Hormuz, again, oil prices will surge. So that's the most immediate impact of this escalation for the world, rising oil prices. The second impact is transit. The Red Sea is a key choke point in West Asia. It carries nearly 12% of global trade. Again, this is at risk. Iran's proxy, the Houthis, are resuming attacks in the region, meaning ships will have to take different, longer routes. Same with air travel. West Asia is home to 110 airports, and they handle millions of passengers. If the airspace is shut, all this travel will have to be rerouted, meaning disruptions and higher costs. Now to the third impact. This attack is yet another American assault on international laws. And it's brazen. Iran and the US had just finished a round of talks on Thursday. Another round of discussions was scheduled for next week. Yes, the talks were largely stalled. Yes, neither side was giving an inch. But the fact is, a diplomatic process was underway. And yet the Americans launched this attack. Now, I get that some people are conflicted about this war. After all, the Iranian regime is brutal. Just last month, it killed thousands of its own people. But this is not about whether you like a regime or not. This is about international law. In the eyes of the world, Iran was a United Nations member state, a country just like America or Israel. You may dislike their regime, you may dislike their methods, but that does not give you the right to topple them. Because do remember, tomorrow these same actors may disapprove of your country's regime and expect leaders to make this case. If America can attack Iran, why can't Russia attack Ukraine? Why can't China attack Taiwan? If might is right, it's basically a free-for-all. Which brings us to the fourth and final impact. Rogue regimes will be watching this closely. And what lessons will they learn? Iran is being attacked because it does not have a nuclear weapon. North Korea is safe because it does have a nuclear weapon. So expect rogue states to start a nuclear race. If not nuclear, then certainly a missile race, because that's the only reason why Iran is able to fight back. They have virtually no air defenses left. All they have are ballistic missiles. If you add these factors up, what picture do you get? You get a picture of uncertainty. More energy insecurity, more trade disruptions, more supply chain issues, more strikes on international law, and a massive looming arms race. It's fair to say that we are entering a period of chaos. This fighting may or may not end soon, but its impact will be felt for long. And that's all that we have for you on this special edition of Vantage. Even as we wrap up, the war is escalating fast. In the latest, Dubai's Palm Street has been hit by Iranian projectiles. Let me pull up the pictures for you. These are pictures from Dubai. They show a raging fire at the Fairmont Hotel on Palm Island. We'll get them up for you shortly. Dubai officials say that the blaze has been brought under control, but 4 people, we understand, have sustained injuries. These are the pictures that we have from Palm Street in Dubai. It is not clear how this projectile hit the hotel. Was it a direct target or was it a from an interception? That is not confirmed yet. But this is a hotel in Dubai. This is clearly a civilian area. And Dubai, of course, is one of the biggest and most important cities in the world, a nerve center of commerce, tourism, and trade. Now, if incidents like these continue, if civilian sites come under attack like this, we are looking at major consequences. These are pictures from Dubai. You can see projectiles in the sky. We did tell you about 2 bases in the UAE coming under, 3 bases in fact coming under attack earlier today. One was in Dubai, but the attacks were limited to military installations, American military installations.
That's crazy.
They've been trying to intercept the missiles from Iran, but that interception, like we told you earlier on the show, causes debris. You have falling debris and it hits civilian areas. A foreigner was killed in Abu Dhabi earlier today, and now we are seeing pictures of this hotel coming under attack in Dubai. Very disturbing images as the war in West Asia escalates. The US and Israel bombed Iran, and Iran retaliated, and Iran did make this threat in the run-up to this war that if they come under attack, all of America's allies in the region will be drawn into the war, and that's exactly what is happening. And they hope to use it as leverage. They're hoping that the Arab states can prevail upon Donald Trump and force him to step back. As things stand, this is a clear escalation, and it doesn't look good. We are looking at major consequences going forward. This is a developing story. These are pictures from Dubai. We are, of course, tracking all the updates. Do stay with First Post for the latest on this story. War in West Asia.
There's a fire.
And this is another set of visuals from Dubai, the hotel coming under attack. Very disturbing images. A Saturday night in Dubai. A civilian area coming under attack. It's not clear if this was a direct attack or if it was a part of a missile that fell on a hotel. This is the Palm Street in Dubai. We're wrapping up with these images, but like I said, this is a developing story and we'll be tracking it here very closely for you on First Post. Thanks very much.
Power doesn't end quietly. Some deaths are not accidents. They are messages. A gunshot.
Listen, man, I'm tapping in. Thank y'all for tuning in with me tonight. But I just had to play that, man. PSA, man, because people is getting killed in this war shit, and this shit should not be going like this, man. You feel me? Trump threatened everybody. They sending missiles, man. They killing innocent people. They ain't got nothing going on, man. We got to stop this, man, but we can't. We can't. But thank y'all for tapping in tonight with me on the Yo Cuz podcast. I'll see y'all tomorrow.